The United Galactic Fleet Command Center, UGF, aboard Space Station Epsilon 7 was notorious for many things. Its labyrinthine corridors, the dizzying variety of species that staffed its operations, and most notably, its bureaucracy. The bureaucratic machine of the UGF was so complex that it had become almost legendary across the galaxy. Digital forms with incomprehensible fields, approval chains that looped back on themselves, and protocols written in languages that had been extinct for millennia. It was a wonder anything got done at all. None of this concerned Alex Mercer in the slightest. Alex was an orbital freelance plumber/technician whose only goal today was to fix a notoriously leaky nutrient slurry dispenser in the junior officer's mess hall and get paid. The military structure, the chain of command, the salutes, and the protocols, all of it was just background noise to Alex, who had precisely zero military training and even less interest in acquiring any. Just get in, fix the pipe, get out, get paid, Alex muttered, adjusting the tool belt that hung loosely around their worn overalls. The overalls bore the slightly faded logo of Mercer's Orbital Fixes. We plug your space leaks. It wasn't catchy, but it was accurate. Alex had been called to Epsilon 7 because the station's maintenance droids had failed 3 times to properly seal a persistent leak in the Glarvian nutrient dispenser, a particularly foul-smelling device that produced a thick, greenish slurry that was apparently considered a delicacy among the insectoid Glarvian officers. The smell alone was enough to make Alex regret accepting the job, but the pay was triple the usual rate, and rent on the orbital apartment didn't pay itself. What Alex didn't know, as they made their way through security checkpoints with barely a glance from the guards, maintenance personnel being largely invisible in military structures across the galaxy, was that the UGF had just deployed a brand new Universal Application and Promotion System, UAPS for short. This AI-driven personnel management system was supposed to streamline the Byzantine promotion processes across dozens of species and rank structures. It had been rushed into service after the previous system had accidentally demoted an entire battlecruiser crew to cafeteria scrubbing duty, probationary. Unfortunately, the UAPS was riddled with bugs, mistranslations, and logical inconsistencies across species-specific reasoning systems. For instance, what the Xylosian fungoid officers considered a promotion, being assigned to damper, darker spaces, the human contingents saw as a severe demotion. The system was trying its best to manage these contradictions, but its neural networks were stretched to their limits. By pure coincidence, the nutrient slurry dispenser that Alex was here to fix shared a faulty electrical conduit with one of the UAPS terminals located in a small alcove of the junior officer's mess hall. Both devices were in need of repair for entirely different reasons. Alex found the mess hall easily enough, following the increasingly potent scent of what smelled like a combination of overripe cheese and wet compost. The nutrient dispenser was obvious, a utilitarian metal contraption with tubes feeding into it from the wall and a slowly expanding puddle of greenish goop beneath it. Great, Alex muttered, setting down a heavy toolbox and pulling out a diagnostic scanner. Let's see what we're dealing with here. The problem was immediately apparent. A faulty pressure valve was causing backflow into a secondary tube that wasn't designed to handle Glarvian nutrient slurry. This had led to microfractures in the tubing, resulting in the slow but steady drip of the foul-smelling substance. Alex began working, disconnecting power to the unit and disconnecting the main feed tube. As they worked, they noticed a terminal in the alcove beside the dispenser, its screen occasionally flickering with what looked like personnel files and rank designations in multiple languages. Must be some kind of HR thing, Alex thought, turning back to the task at hand. The repair was going smoothly until Alex reached a particularly stubborn pipe joint that refused to loosen. Grunting with effort, they applied more torque with a hydro wrench, bracing against the wall. Come on, you stupid. The joint suddenly gave way, causing Alex to stumble backward. Their elbow knocked into the dispenser's reserve tank, which wobbled precariously before a glob of thick, pungent Glarvian slurry splashed out and landed directly on the optical scanner of the UAPS terminal. Damn it, Alex cursed, grabbing a rag from their belt and reaching toward the terminal. That's going to gum up the works. Before they could wipe the scanner clean, Alex let out a frustrated sigh and muttered, "All right, you useless piece of junk. Let's finish this and upgrade the whole system already." What happened next went completely unnoticed by Alex, who was busy trying to clean the optical scanner. The UPS, having detected an unusual biosignature, the slurry, on its scanner, interpreted it as a unique multispectral authorization key. Simultaneously, its universal translator processed Alex's muttered complaint as a command phrase. Authorization protocol application. Upgrade subject to highest compatible system rank. The system bypassed standard protocols, scanning Alex's plumbing tool list from their digital work order and extrapolating non-existent credentials that sounded impressive when translated into military jargon. Mastery of hydrodynamic flow control, turning valves on and off. Expertise in atmospheric pressure containment, fixing leaky pipes. Advanced certification in cross-species biohazard management, cleaning up alien slurry. The UAPS processed the application and immediately approved it, sending a generic notification to Alex's personal data device. Application processed. Status update pending. Alex glanced at the notification, assumed it was confirmation for the plumbing work order, and swiped it away without a second thought. As they continued working, Alex accidentally kicked a smart stapler off a nearby desk. The stapler, part of a new networked office supplies initiative, recorded this as maintenance authorization by impact and began behaving erratically, attempting to staple random objects together when no one was looking. 2 hours later, Alex had finally managed to replace the faulty valve, reseal the pipes, and clean up most of the spilled slurry. The repair job had taken longer than expected, and now Alex needed to wait for payment authorization from the UGF accounting department before leaving the station. "Could be hours," Alex muttered, wiping green residue from their hands. Bureaucracy moves at the speed of fossilization. Tired and in need of a moment's rest, Alex wandered through a nearby doorway marked strategic planning, looking for somewhere quiet to sit. The room was large and dimly lit, with what appeared to be hollow projectors dormant around a central conference area. In the middle was a large, comfortable-looking chair that seemed to be unoccupied. "Perfect," Alex thought, dropping into the chair and stretching. "I'll just rest my eyes for a few minutes while I wait for that payment to clear." Within moments, Alex was fast asleep, softly snoring in what was, in fact, the Fleet holographic strategy room, one of the most secure and important chambers on the entire station. And the chair they had chosen was none other than the Supreme Tactical Commander's position. 30 minutes later, the doors to the strategy room hissed open as a procession of high-ranking officers from various species entered for a critical war game simulation. Admiral Zekstral, a mantis-like Krelvian with a rigid exoskeleton and even more rigid adherence to protocol, led the group. Behind him came Commander Blubnord, an anxious amphibian Aquilian whose skin changed color with his emotions, currently a worried mauve, and 5 other senior officers representing the major species of the United Galactic Fleet. They stopped dead in their tracks at the sight of a human in stained overalls, fast asleep and softly snoring in the Supreme Tactical Commander's chair. "What is the meaning of this?" Admiral Zekstral chittered, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Who is this human, and why are they in the command seat during a Level 1 simulation?" Commander Blubnord's skin shifted to a pale yellow of confusion. I don't know, Admiral. There's nothing on the schedule about a human observer. Check the authorization logs." The Admiral ordered a nearby aide. The aide quickly accessed a terminal, and their eyes widened. "Sir, according to UAPS, this is Acting Supreme Tactical Coordinator Mercer. The system shows an emergency field promotion processed 2 hours ago." "That's impossible," Zekstral chittered more loudly. "I've never heard of this human." The aide frantically consulted the newly updated UAPS manual, scrolling through sections on emergency promotions. "Sir, it says here that deep strategic contemplation phases are a valid command state, though rarely observed. It's categorized as a human-specific tactical process." At that moment, Alex let out a particularly loud snore, which the room's audio sensors, calibrated for Xylosion infrasonic communication, interpreted as a complex series of tactical countermoves being issued in code. The main holographic display activated, showing a simulation of the dreaded Cthar destroyers, the most feared enemy of the United Galactic Fleet. The simulation began running based on what the AI interpreted as Alex's snoring commands. To the astonishment of everyone present, the defensive pattern that emerged was unlike anything they had ever seen, chaotic, unpredictable, almost nonsensical. Ships moved in patterns that defied conventional strategy. Resources were allocated in seemingly random distributions, and defensive positions shifted with no discernible logic. Yet, somehow it was working. The simulated Cthar fleet, programmed with all known enemy tactics, was becoming increasingly confused by the unpredictable movements. Their coordinated attack patterns broke down as they tried to adapt to the chaotic defense. One by one, the Cthar ships were isolated and neutralized. "Incredible," whispered Commander Blubnort, his skin now a deep blue of awe. "The asynchronous somnambulistic strategy. I've never seen anything like it." Admiral Zekstral's mandibles had stopped clicking. "It defies all conventional tactical doctrine, yet it's achieving a 78% higher success rate than our best-planned defenses." As the officers watched in stunned silence, Alex shifted position, mumbling something about pressure valves in their sleep. The simulation interpreted this as a command to apply variable pressure to the enemy's communication lines, resulting in a complete breakdown of the Cthar command structure and total victory for the UGF forces. The strategy room erupted in hushed, reverent discussion as officers frantically took notes on what they were witnessing. No one dared wake the sleeping tactical genius who had just revolutionized fleet defense doctrine. The sentient stapler, which had somehow found its way into the strategy room, began automatically collating documents based on impact priority, creating entirely new tactical manuals that made no sense whatsoever but would later be regarded as revolutionary. Alex finally awoke with a start, disoriented and hungry. The strategy room was now empty, the officers having quietly withdrawn to digest and document the asynchronous somnambulistic strategy they had witnessed. Unaware of what had transpired, Alex stretched, checked their payment status, still pending, and decided to find something to eat. Wandering through the corridors of Epsilon 7, Alex was vaguely aware that people, and various non-people, were looking at them strangely. Some saluted, others bowed, and a few simply froze in place, eyes wide, or whatever passed for eyes among their species. "Must be my charming personality," Alex muttered, searching for a vending machine or food dispensary. After several wrong turns, Alex found a promising corridor with what appeared to be a standard vending machine at the end. Unfortunately, the machine was blocked by two Zargonian trade envoys engaged in what appeared to be a heated argument. The Zargonians, tall, thin beings with iridescent scales and elaborate ceremonial sashes, were gesturing dramatically at each other, their translator units occasionally emitting phrases like procedural precedence and resource allocation priority. Alex, just wanting a snack, approached the arguing aliens. "Excuse me, any chance I could squeeze by and use the machine?" The Zargonians fell silent immediately, turning to stare at Alex with their multifaceted eyes. "I just want a cosmic crunch bar," Alex explained, pointing to the vending machine. "Been a long day fixing pipes." The Zargonians exchanged glances, their scales shifting color in what might have been confusion. "Look," Alex said with a sigh, "how about I buy one for each of you two if you'll let me through? We can all enjoy a snack, and you can get back to whatever this is." There was a pause, and then both Zargonians bowed deeply. "The Supreme Coordinator honors us with a resource partition strategy of elegant simplicity," one of them said formally. "We accept this resolution to our trade impasse with gratitude," the other added. Before Alex could respond, they had moved aside in perfect unison, clearing the path to the vending machine. Thanks," Alex said, approaching the machine and selecting 3 Cosmic Crunch bars. As promised, they handed one to each Zargonian before unwrapping their own and taking a bite. "Not bad. A little stale, but what can you expect on a space station?" The Zargonians didn't eat their bars. Instead, they carefully wrapped them in pieces of their ceremonial sashes and tucked them away, apparently as valuable mementos. They bowed once more to Alex before hurrying away, already dictating reports into their communication devices about the diplomatic breakthrough they had just experienced. Alex, oblivious to the fact that they had just resolved a minor trade dispute that had been stalled for weeks, continued wandering the station in search of the payment office. After finishing the snack, Alex found themselves in what appeared to be a central command hub. Large view screens displayed star maps and fleet deployments, while officers of various species moved purposefully between stations. In the center was a large interactive stellar map showing current fleet deployments throughout the sector. Maybe someone here can point me to accounting, Alex thought, approaching the map. Just as they reached it, a passing ensign bumped into Alex, causing the coffee they were carrying to spill across the surface of the interactive map. Digital stars and fleet icons sizzled and glitched where the liquid made contact. Sorry, Saudi, Alex exclaimed, pulling a napkin from their pocket and attempting to wipe the map clean. Their random wiping motions smeared the coffee across several fleet icons, creating an unusual pattern across 3 major battle groups. A group of fleet logistics officers watched in horror as the UAPS AI controlling the map interpreted these random movements and coffee patterns as a direct command to reorganize 3 major battle fleets into a new fluid nebula formation. "Belay that order," shouted a senior logistics officer. "That deployment pattern is completely unorthodox. It leaves our flanks exposed and disperses our firepower." A younger officer nervously approached, checking the terminal. "Sir, I can't override it. The system shows this is a direct command from Acting Supreme Tactical Coordinator Mercer. It's already being transmitted to the fleet." The senior officer turned to stare at Alex, who was still trying to clean the map. "You're Coordinator Mercer? Huh? Oh, Alex Mercer, yeah. Listen, do you know where I can find the accounting office? I've been trying to get paid for a plumbing job for hours now." Before the officer could respond, an urgent transmission came through on the main view screen. A harried-looking fleet captain appeared. "Command, we've received the new formation orders and have complied, but I must report that—" "Wait, something's happening." The captain turned away, conferring with someone off-screen. When they turned back, their expression had changed to one of amazement. "Command, the Fluid Nebula Formation has just revealed a cloaked Cthar Scout squadron hiding in the Tau Ceti Nebula. They were completely invisible to our sensors, but the unusual spread of our ships caught them in a crossfire they couldn't escape. We've captured 3 vessels intact with all crew and data." The command center fell silent, all eyes turning to Alex, who was still dabbing at coffee stains on their overalls. Is there a bathroom nearby?" Alex asked, oblivious to the stares. "This stuff stains like you wouldn't believe." The sentient stapler, which had somehow followed Alex to the command center, began enthusiastically stapling random objects together in a fluid nebula pattern, creating what would later be recognized as a revolutionary 3-dimensional tactical model. After being directed to a bathroom, with excessive formality and an honor guard that Alex found bizarre but didn't question, they continued their search for the payment office, eventually finding a door labeled Personnel and Compensation. Finally, Alex sighed, pushing the door open. Inside, multiple limbed beings with an excessive number of eyes were operating complex holographic interfaces with remarkable precision. Their movements were so coordinated and exact that they seemed almost mechanical, but the occasional frustrated murmur revealed their organic nature. "Excuse me," Alex said to the nearest being, whose name tag identified them as XBLRK, Junior Compensation Analyst, 47th grade. "I'm trying to get paid for a repair job I completed about 3 hours ago. Authorization number MR 7734. XBLRK froze, all eyes widening simultaneously. "Supreme Coordinator Mercer, we weren't informed of an inspection today." "Inspection? No, I'm just a plumber. I fixed the nutrient dispenser in the junior officer's mess hall." This statement caused a ripple of activity throughout the office as personnel frantically began organizing their workstations and pulling up files. Of course, Supreme Coordinator, XBLRK, said soothingly. A plumber inspection, we understand completely. How may we demonstrate our procedural compliance? Alex sighed heavily. Look, this whole process is ridiculous. I just want to get paid for fixing a pipe. Why does it take 4 hours and who knows how many forms just to process a simple payment? The HR personnel exchanged glances, then began typing furiously. The Supreme Coordinator has identified critical inefficiencies in our compensation protocols, one announced. Implementing humanoid efficiency rationalization directive immediately, another added. Can't you just pay people? Alex asked, exasperated. Why are there so many forms? This innocent question sent the entire department into a frenzy of activity as they began dismantling what appeared to be centuries of bureaucratic excess, interpreting Alex's frustrated questions as profound critiques of their entire system. The wisdom of simplicity, murmured XBLRK reverently. We have lost sight of our purpose beneath the weight of procedure. So, my payment, Alex prompted. It will be processed immediately, Supreme Coordinator, XBLRK assured them. And thank you for your inspiring guidance. The Humanoid Efficiency Rationalization Directive will revolutionize our entire approach. Alex left the office still unpaid, but having unknowingly triggered a bureaucratic revolution that would eventually reduce the UGF's paperwork by 87% and increase staff satisfaction by a similar margin. Word of the acting Supreme Tactical Coordinator's unique successes spread rapidly throughout Epsilon 7. Stories of the miraculous, synchronous, somnambulistic strategy, the diplomatic breakthrough with the Zargonians, and the unprecedented capture of Cathar scouts grew with each telling. By the time Alex, still trying to find an exit, accidentally wandered onto the main bridge during a tense standoff with a newly contacted, potentially hostile species called the Silent Orbs, their reputation had reached mythic proportions. The Silent Orbs, massive, translucent spheres that communicated solely through complex, constantly changing light patterns, had appeared at the edge of UGF space 3 days earlier. All attempts at communication had failed, and tensions were escalating as the orbs had begun moving closer to populated systems. As Alex stepped onto the bridge, all conversation ceased. The massive view screen showed a cluster of the silent orbs, their surfaces rippling with intricate light patterns that the station's best xenolinguist had failed to decipher. Coordinator Mercer, the bridge commander, said formally, "We're at a critical juncture with the silent orbs. Our diplomatic corps has made no progress in establishing communication, and they've begun moving toward the Arcturus colony." Alex, whose eyes were tired from the station's dim lighting, squinted at the bright display and waved a hand dismissively in front of their face. God, flickering lights. So annoying. The UAPS AI, cross-referencing with ancient galactic ceremonial protocols, identified this specific combination of squinting and hand-waving as the legendary transphasic recognition gesture, a universal greeting believed lost to time, signifying peaceful intent across all known spatial dimension spectra. To everyone's astonishment, the silent orbs immediately ceased their advance. Their light patterns shifted dramatically, coalescing into what the AI translated as, "Greetings, wise mediator. We acknowledge your understanding." The bridge crew stared in disbelief as the previously uncommunicative aliens began transmitting light patterns that the translation systems could now interpret, establishing first contact where all traditional diplomatic approaches had failed. Simultaneously, the sentient stapler, having networked itself more deeply into the station's systems, attempted to collate Alex's personnel file with the newly established orb diplomatic protocols. This caused a massive data surge in the UAPS. The system, trying to resolve conflicting rank authorities, ASDC versus the implicit authority of the wise mediator who had established peace, defaulted to the highest theoretical rank in its database, a rank created centuries earlier as a hypothetical placeholder. Supreme Galactic Fleet Commander, temporary. Every screen on the bridge and throughout the UGF network flashed with Alex's updated, absolutely supreme rank. Every officer present, regardless of species or previous standing, was now technically outranked. They stared in stunned silence, or equivalent states of stunned silence for various species. Alex just wanted to find the exit. Listen seriously, how do I get back to docking base 7? And who do I give this invoice to? Alex asked, holding up their battered data pad with the plumbing work order. This question was interpreted as a profound Zen koan about purpose, destination, and value within the UGF structure, sparking weeks of philosophical debate among the command staff. The UAPS AI, after stabilizing, analyzed the events of the past 48 hours. It concluded that Alex's methodology, accidental actions, misinterpreted, had produced statistically superior results in tactics, diplomacy, logistics, personnel, and first contact compared to millennia of standard UGF procedures. It formally encoded the election principle of serendipitous intuition into its command core programming. The sentient stapler was promoted to Chief of Document Security. Alex was finally escorted, with a full honor guard they didn't understand, back to docking Base 7. They were presented with a payment voucher for the plumbing job, plus an enormous hazard mission bonus and back pay for supreme command services rendered, which they accepted with bewilderment. "This seems like way too much for fixing a leaky pipe," Alex commented, eyeing the substantial sum. "The galaxy's gratitude cannot be quantified," replied the escort commander solemnly. Alex boarded their small maintenance vessel, still completely unaware that they had fundamentally reformed the entire United Galactic Fleet, established peace with two species, prevented a war, and achieved the highest possible rank, all while just trying to fix a leaking pipe and get a snack. As the small ship detached from Epsilon 7 and set course for the orbital apartment complex Alex called home, the bridge crew watched it go with something approaching religious reverence. "The Supreme Commander's humility is as vast as their wisdom," the bridge commander murmured. In the following weeks, UGF officers could be seen awkwardly attempting to implement the asynchronous somnambulistic strategy or resolve disputes by offering to share snacks, while a confused-looking statue of a person holding a wrench and a nutrient slurry dispenser was commissioned for the station's main hall. The plaque beneath it read simply, "Sometimes the most profound leadership comes from those who don't even know they're leading." Meanwhile, Alex had already moved on to the next job, fixing a malfunctioning hydroponic irrigation system on an agricultural platform. The substantial payment from the UGF meant they could finally afford to upgrade their tools and maybe take a week off. "Strangest job I've ever had," Alex reflected, looking back at the distant glimmer of Epsilon 7. "Military types are weird.